Mornings are supposed to be peaceful. They're supposed to be the gentle start to a day, the quiet moment before the chaos sets in. But my morning without coffee? Let's just say peaceful isn't a word that comes to mind. It all started last Tuesday. I had gone to bed the night before, thinking, tomorrow, I'll treat myself to a nice cup of coffee first thing in the morning. Simple, right? But life had other plans. I woke up to the sound of my alarm blaring. Half asleep, I reached over and smashed it off, thinking I could drift back into my foggy dreams for a few more minutes. But no, my body had already betrayed me. I was awake, fully conscious, yet entirely unprepared for the world without caffeine. I stumbled to the kitchen, rubbing my eyes, only to realize the horror. No coffee, not a single bean in sight. No pods, no instant packets, nothing. My usual confident, somewhat functioning self felt like it had been replaced by a zombie version of me, someone whose main purpose in life had suddenly vanished. I tried to reason with myself. It's fine, just water. Tea. Something warm. You can survive without coffee. Ha ha ha. I poured myself a cup of water, hoping the illusion of liquid in my hand might trick my brain into waking up. It didn't. The water sat in my stomach like a sad, flavorless substitute, offering zero motivation, zero energy, and zero hope. The first signs of the day's chaos hit immediately. I attempted to make breakfast, and the universe laughed at me. The toaster refused to toast the bread evenly, leaving one side practically charred and the other side cold. The milk carton tipped over, spilling a puddle across the counter. I grabbed a paper towel, only to discover the sponge was missing, apparently hiding from my Every movement I made seemed slightly slower, slightly off, and slightly ridiculous. By the time I sat down at the table with my sad, unevenly toasted bread, I realized my brain was malfunctioning in ways I hadn't experienced before. Emails I opened made no sense. Notifications on my phone seemed like a foreign language. Even the morning news headlines blurred together, forming sentences like, "Scientists warn coffee shortages could lead to global panic," which, let me tell you, felt very real at the moment. Halfway through my bread, I tried to focus on my work, but without coffee, my ability to concentrate was severely compromised. My laptop screen glared at me like it was mocking my very existence. Typing a simple sentence took 3 tries. Reading an email took 5 minutes. My brain was a foggy mess, and I wasn't even halfway awake. By mid-morning, things escalated. I attempted a cup of tea as a desperate substitute. I had read somewhere that caffeine in tea could provide a mild boost. Spoiler alert, it did not. I poured the boiling water over the tea bag, waited 3 minutes, and sipped cautiously. The taste was bitter, watery, and somehow worse than the coffee-free reality I had already accepted. It was a bitter reminder that no alternative could replicate my sacred morning ritual. The world outside my apartment felt louder. The birds were chirping too enthusiastically. The neighbor's dog barked for what seemed like hours. Even the garbage truck's usual rumble felt like a full-on assault. I realized that without coffee, every sensory input was amplified, every irritation exaggerated, and every inconvenience impossible to ignore. I tried to call my friend to vent, hoping that speaking to someone might stabilize me. I dialed, explained the tragedy, and within minutes, we were laughing hysterically. Not because anything was funny, but because laughing was the only sane response to my caffeine-deprived state. I could barely string words together, and yet somehow, I was forming coherent sentences that made my friend understand the gravity of my situation. Then came lunch. I thought, maybe food will help. Maybe carbs or sugar or something substantial will give me energy. Wrong. I made a sandwich, sat down, and realized I had no idea what I was doing. The cheese slid off the bread, the lettuce tore into uneven strips. The tomato squirted juice directly onto my laptop keyboard. By 1 p.m., I had officially accepted that this day was a disaster, and it wasn't even over yet. By mid-afternoon, I noticed my body reacting in unexpected ways. My hands shook slightly, my eyes darted around the room, and my brain's fog had turned into a jittery, anxious storm. I started pacing. I rearranged my furniture. I reread emails. I made a grocery list for items I already had. Every minor task suddenly felt monumental. Every decision required intense deliberation. Coffee was supposed to guide me through this. Its absence had made me a puppet of chaos. Then came the peak moment, the moment where all non-caffeinated mornings collide. I attempted to take a short nap to regain some composure, but I couldn't. My mind refused to settle. I imagined scenarios. The coffee store running out of beans, forever. My colleagues laughing at my tired, jittery self. The universe conspiring against me. The nap lasted 0 minutes. I gave up and resigned myself to surviving the rest of the day in this heightened, slightly panicked state. Around 4 p.m., I tried to do a workout. Usually, exercise is my way to reset and shake off stress. Without coffee though, my legs felt like rubber bands stretched too thin. Every jump, every stretch, every movement required extreme effort. I was sweating, out of breath, and mildly frustrated by how much slower I was than usual. It was humbling. I realized that caffeine isn't just a morning ritual, it is a daily catalyst for my body and mind. A subtle force that makes me feel capable of basic tasks. Without it, I was a walking, talking, slightly pathetic version of myself. Evening approached, and I tried to cook dinner. By this point, I was exhausted, both physically and mentally, but also strangely alert, in a frantic, anxious way. Every chop of vegetables, every simmer of sauce, felt exaggerated in importance. The pasta boiled over, the garlic burned, and the kitchen looked like a war zone. My roommates peeked in occasionally, asking if I was okay. I waved them off, muttering something about caffeine and survival, which they nodded at, clearly confused but wisely, choosing not to intervene. Finally, night fell. I collapsed onto the couch, utterly drained. The coffee-less day had reached its climax. A strange mix of exhaustion, mental chaos, and the odd hyper-awareness that only comes when your brain is operating without its usual fuel. I stared at the ceiling, contemplating life choices, and promised myself, never again, not without coffee. As I scrolled through social media, half distracted and half anxious, I saw memes about people surviving mornings without caffeine. I laughed weakly. The jokes were true, the struggle was real. I wasn't alone. Across the world, countless others were enduring this same slow, torturous day, united by the absence of that magical brown liquid. I reflected on the day. Despite the chaos, the mistakes, the spills, and the mental fog, there was a silver lining. I had survived. Barely I had eaten, laughed at myself, and maintained some semblance of work productivity. I had navigated social interactions, albeit awkwardly, and I had learned something important. Caffeine might fuel my mornings, but resilience fuels my days. Beyond 6 p.m., I finally prepared for bed, exhausted and ready to collapse. My hands shook slightly as I brushed my teeth, and my mind felt like it had been on a roller coaster for 12 hours straight. Yet, I smiled. Primera de made Italiano. Coffeeless, chaotic, jittery, and messy. I had survived. And tomorrow, the first thing I would do after waking up was brew the strongest, most perfect cup of coffee I could find. Primera de Servet Italiano had earned it. So, if you've ever had a morning without coffee, or if you dare to attempt it, remember this. It is a journey through fog, chaos, and minor disasters, but it's also a story of resilience, patience, and self-discovery. Comment below with your worst coffee-less experience, share your memes about mornings gone wrong, and hit that like button if you've ever faced the horrors of a caffeine-free day. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that explore the chaos, humor, and absurdity of everyday moments. Because at the end of the day, it's not about surviving without coffee, it's about appreciating it when it finally returns. The sip, the aroma, the warmth, the power it brings to transform a chaotic, jittery morning into something manageable, something productive, something human.